YouTube is okay.
Okay, so much.
So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Everything's ready, Isa. Time you can start the session. Thank you so much for all.
Thank you so much. Dear all, conference on museums 2021, which was started on May 19th this year, and we successfully conducted sessions of first two groups in May and June respectively. This is since ICOM Pakistan is hosting you all. I wish we could host you physically, but this year we have to bear with the virtual presence and hosting from ICOM Pakistan. We are looking forward to host you some other time in our country. With these notes, I would like to invite Madam Sadat Gunair for the welcome speech. She studied economy, commerce, and worked in the Central Bank of the Republic of Turkey. She is dealing with the relationship between the sustainable development of the countries and protection of cultural heritage since 1996. From 2000 to 2005, she activated as Free International Project Designer and coordinator in Turkey for unemployed and destitute persons within the framework of the Social Risk Mitigation Program of the World Bank. In 2006, she was one of the founder member of QMID in Istanbul, Turkey, and World Association for the Protection of the Tangible and Intangible Cultural Heritage in times of armed conflict, Rome, Italy. From 2000, took part in the European Union projects coordinated by QMID and presented numerous papers at national and international conferences. And we are lucky to have her as our partner, as she's representing QMID, which is our technical partner for this conference. Thank you so much, Ma'am Sadat, for joining in. Please, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Isa, Madam Isa. Dear Presidents, representative of ICOM, national committees of ICOM, keynote speakers, dear speakers, and participants, welcome. In the first part of my speech, I would like to talk about our international virtual conference on museums journey. They started in 2020 and continue in 2021. Hereafter, I will call the conference of IVCoM. Let's imagine it was a warm night in July 2020. The COVID-19 outbreak was ongoing and negatively affecting people and the society in the world. I was in Turkey. Sitti Rabia Binte Abdurrahman from Jabatiya Museum, Malaysia, and Friends of Museum from Malaysia, in Malaysia, and Sir Mohammed Akhtar Javed from ICOM Pakistan, in Pakistan. We chat and shared information on social media, Facebook, with short sentences about the protecting of our cultural assets. Dr. Javed wrote a message like that. Let's make a historical collaboration. Let's hold an international virtual conference on museum and discuss these issues there in the details. This was the first step of ICOM 2020's journey. ICOM 2020 partners consist of the ICOM national committees from Malaysia, Pakistan, Turkey, and our association, QMID, one of the national civil society organization in Turkey. After the great success of ICOM 2020, we started a new journey with ICOM Pakistan in the spring for ICOM 2021. After the successfully completed Group 1 and Group 3 session, today we are in your presence with the session of Group 3. Main term of Group 3 is the Museum of Education. During those journeys, ministries, international governmental organizations, their national and international and natural NGOs, their national committees, universities, institutions, laboratories, etc., are always together with us during this journey. Thank you. As you know, dear speakers, as you know, after the functions of the storage, protection, exhibition today, museums have begun to be used as an educational tool. In this slide, I would like to show you Mecma Asarya Antika Museum, Mecma Asarya Antika, in English, Ancient Artifacts Collection, which is the first museum establishment in Turkey during the Ottoman Empire, and it forms the basis today, Istanbul Archaeological Museum. First of all, the collection was originally gathered in Haya Irene, and then collection were moved to tiled kiosk, and the collection currently is in the Istanbul Archaeological Museum. In this slide, we see the journey of museology in the Republic of Turkey by current age. The ongoing COVID-19 epidemic in the world since January 2020 has rapidly moved the education function of the museum to the digital world with online education. Therefore, in the group 3 session that will continue 4 days, the topics museum and education, especially online education studies, will be presented to you in details by the distinguished speakers. Dear participants, the biggest treasure we have gained from ICOM 2020 and 2021, which we take part entirely on a voluntary basis, is the videos posted on the website of ICOM 2021 and YouTube page of ICOM Pakistan and Kumit. These videos, which feature the presentation of distinguished speakers, are valuable enough to be used in their education at university, museum, etc. Before concluding my speech, sorry. Okay. Before concluding my speech, please allow me to introduce you to the hidden heroes of our technical team behind of ICOM 2020 and 2021. We owe them. We are grateful them. We would like to applaud them in your presence. Before from Kumit, Associate Professor Dr. Ali Akın Akyol, member of Kumit and ICOM Turkey, and academician in Ankara Hacı Bayram University Faculty of Fine Arts, Department of the Conservation and Restoration of the Cultural Universities, and PhD candidates Cemile and Menegin, and graduate students Nefise, archaeologist Deniz, voluntary worker for Kumit, and Madam Iza from ICOM Pakistan, Secretary of ICOM Pakistan, and Zahida Kadri, Executive Board Member of Pakistan, present their voluntarily endless technical efforts to ICOM 2021. ICOM 2020 and ICOM 2021 may become the historical example of the cooperation, solidarity, dialogue, exchange information among the national committees of ICOM, civil society organization, international governmental organization, universities, ministries, laboratories. I hope it sets an example to the whole world for the protection of the cultural heritage. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Sadat. Thank you so much for your kind words and for walking us through the journey of International Virtual Conference of Museums. Let me introduce Professor Sarja Heather Wandel, I'm really thankful to her for joining us at such a short notice and being here even before the sunrise there, as she's in the New York, and I believe it's 5 a.m. there. Professor Sajda Vandal is Principal Architect for Pervez Vandal and Associates and is currently serving as CEO of Trust for History and Art Pakistan. She has been implementing many donor-funded projects, including UNESCO World Heritage Site projects for Lahore Fort and Shalimar Gardens, and UNESCO Norway-funded project of mapping of cultural assets of district Bahawalpur and Multan. She established Institute of Art and Culture in Lahore, which is offering various degree programs. She also served as professor of architecture and then principal of National College of Arts, Lahore. She's an author of book on by Ram Singh, an architect who designed various buildings in colonial Lahore, besides many contributions in her field. Thank you so much, ma'am. Are you here? She's our keynote speaker for today. Professor Sajda. Can you hear me? Can you unmute your mic?
Yeah. Is that better now? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, I'd like to start sharing my screen with you because I have 10 minutes and I want to share a few ideas with you.
Yeah.
I think that the way I come basically from an educational background. I'm an educationist and have served in the higher education kind of a platform, but have worked extensively also in the trying to kind of integrate culture in the school systems. So I'd like to kind of like make my first point, which is this, that understanding the context of where we are located, I think is the most important point when we're working in cultural heritage. And in that, I would like to, my screen shows this map of Pakistan and the immense diversity that we are looking at. There's the vertical diversity, which goes over 10,000 years and is represented by many different civilizations. And you can see in the two photographs on the right that these are something, some of these aspects, or can you hear me?
We can hear
these
you, but
elements.
there's no screen sharing. Can you please check it again? Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
You can make it full screen.
So this map basically shows, the diversity of Pakistan. Okay. And also the horizontal diversity that we have here in, in Pakistan. So we're dealing with the linguistics or diversity also of about 74 languages which exist out here. I think gives us a very unique opportunity of looking at culture in its many dimensions. So while the museums showcase the artifacts, which are often the work of communities which continue to practice some of the crafts which they are showing, but the connection between museums and the craft people and the traditional practitioners and knowledge bearers in communities seem to be kind of pretty, needs to be strengthened. And the craft communities and the traditional practitioners have generally been very ignored in communities. Basically because they are very poor, they're under-acknowledged, they are, they may not have gone through a formal system of education and all. So there is that kind of a disconnect that is occurring, I think. Then we have also that Pakistan has been struggling for a very long time to try and understand how the intangible cultural heritage still has relevance, and how to make education more relevant for children by tapping into these kind of resources. So the point that I think I'd like to focus on is whether museums, which are the repositories of knowledge, and can they play a critical role in ensuring a people-centered, engaging museum, and not become just like the ivory towers that we have in Pakistan, which seem to be disconnected from people. Developing a super people-centric approach to deal with the super diversity which exists within our societies. I think within our region, there is this very apparent kind of a diversity, which is not only unique to Pakistan, but I think within our region, it is very prominent. Then we have, half my screen is hidden here, but the contextual approach that I'm trying to promote out here basically means also that the museums and educational institutions and those dealing with the cultural areas need to kind of tap into that kind of an approach. And for us, it became like identifying that at the local level. It's taking a local approach rather than approach which is very generic. So which basically means that we are now going to be talking and dealing with the communities which are representing some of the cultural elements which are already existing in museums, maybe artifacts, but here they are in practice. And to do that, we need to develop a very respectful relationship with communities and think about educational models which are transformative and not, following the kind of things that we, at least in Pakistan, have inherited from our colonial past. Now, developing the people-centric approach also requires that we rethink and reflect basically on what we should be doing. The challenge for educational institutions and museums is what are the methodologies to incorporate the many varieties and expressions, develop methodologies which reorient the approach. I think there's an arrogance which people who have been fortunate enough to have gone through a formal system of education seem to have developed. And we need to temper that with a more kind of a humane and a more a tempered approach. So recognizing, acknowledging, and including the two streams of knowledge which exist in our society. In Pakistan, we have generally ignored one stream of knowledge, and that is the one that comes from our traditional sources. So I think that transformative model basically talks about is based on the traditional knowledge stream and the contemporary knowledge stream trying to kind of come together. The training that we have as architects or maybe as archaeologists or as museumologists basically is very focused towards the tangible. And I think one of the things that our training has not kind of emphasized or focused on so much is the point of how the intangible cultural heritage influences us and what is the relevance of that. So I think that that is something that we need to kind of like look at again. And then we also have to be conscious of, at least in the case of Pakistan, of the colonial past that we have inherited, where much of the interpretation that we have about our own culture comes from those kind of sources, which I think also needs to be evaluated and revisited. Even the museums are offering kind of explanations which are not from the perspective, perhaps, of a free kind of a country, but are basically colonial interpretations. Then we have to look at the issue of the mother language, issue of languages that we use. For example, English is our, of course, we accept that as the language, as the common language. But we have generally ignored the fact that not everybody speaks that language. And secondly, that a tri-language policy perhaps needs to be adopted, looking at our native language, our national language, and our mother languages, and of course English. I'm going to just share a few examples, which are from our organization's journey into this journey of learning from communities. The first example that I'm going to share is basically something that started or rolled this off. And this was following the Convention 2003 of the Intangible Cultural Heritage. And it started in 2009 when UNESCO office at the Asia Pacific office in Bangkok planned to have a 4-country pilot project. Now, the objective of that was to research and ascertain the situation in each country, and then develop methodologies and pedagogy for integrating this cultural knowledge in the school system and in learning and education, and prepare the resources and prepare national guidelines. Now, the approach involved respecting communities, groups, and sometimes individuals who are the rightful owners of this heritage, and also working with communities and working with knowledge bearers and traditional bearers, and also developing an inclusive approach while learning from each other, reducing the arrogance born out of formal education. And then developing methodologies of inclusive approach, learning from the people and being the technical advisors, perhaps, in the work that we were now going to be doing. Our partners for this over the last decade or so have been the schools and institutions, museums and other art cultural institutions and establishments and communities. The work that I'm showing happened in KP, which was following the war. So it was like a post-war effort also at reconstruction and developing peace and conflict resolution. So we went through the whole procedures of developing the resources and all that, which you can see on the screen. And we worked closely in collaboration with teachers and with groups that we formed with the communities because of the recognition that they were the knowledge bearers, really. One of the things that we also produced as a resource kit was the thematic projects that that you can see on the screen. And in these thematic projects, you can see how museums interface with this. So we were the ones who would go out to the museums to ask them to be partners with us, or to at least participate in some of the events that we were going to take place. But it was not like a natural kind of a collaboration which had happened right at the inception. So the whole aspect of integrating this heritage within the school system gave us a great insight into the way that traditional practitioners layer their knowledge through the kind of work that they are doing. And even in the storytelling or calligraphy or whatever is happening, there are so many layers of information which the teachers actually grasped and they put it within their school systems. And since this was post-war, there was also the exploration for finding conflict resolution systems in the traditional systems that existed. Now, again, in the screen that you can see at the lower end, there are these 3 areas which this basically shows the way that integration can take place, working with communities and with institutions. And you can see the extracurricular projects that can happen with museums, the thematic projects that we spoke about, and then the school projects, which are melas and festivals that can take place. One of the points that I'd like to raise out here, that in our experience in these areas, there are very little resources that schools have. And now there's this emerging kind of a effort to to bring out museums, to set up museums even at the district level or the sub-provincial level. The museums can act as the cultural hub for schools and have the kind of resources that each school cannot obviously have on its own. But the museums obviously have to be very proactive in that kind of a way to have that happen. Then the national guidelines also cannot be done in isolation. I mean, we are, as professionals, perhaps I'm talking of myself, used to doing things, thinking that we know best. But then you soon realize when you work with communities that you do not, in fact, know the best. And therefore, you have to build up those consensus and have collaboration and consultation continuously. And here you can see that those consultations happened at many levels. And the question for the museums would be, can they become a part of all this effort to integrate education culture within the school system? Then we are talking about the integration of, of culture within the schools, and thinking of how enhancing, how you can enhance the role of museums in education and learning. And the example I'm showing is at the Hunt Museum, which is a small district level museum, but has an excellent collection, a completely excellent collection. Gandhara and the Hunt, the Kushan period and all. And there are the museums located within a site, or the context is such that there are a huge amount of archaeological remains and interesting sites around, which are areas to learn from. So bringing the traditional practitioners within the museums to provide those kind of services for communities and also for the schools which are in that community, and for the children who are perhaps out of school, and for women and everybody, can be a very enriching experience. And we did this through a series of workshops. We worked there for about a year. But the district level museums also have very few resources. So some kind of a system needs to be developed, providing the guidelines, providing the resources, building those kind of, things to support our effort was obviously a part of this whole thing. The project that is now happening is directly also including museums as a cultural site, because although we are dealing with the tangible archaeological sites which exist in various areas in this region, but we are basically also including museums as a cultural site, so that we can draw them into this whole effort of working with communities and putting the associated intangible cultural heritage at par with the tangible heritage and the artifacts that the museums hold. So you can see all this, the resources that need to be generated, the stories that need to be collected. We do a lot of animation work also in this. Because to reach out to the children, you need to obviously have different ways of approaching, not only through text. And also we are conscious of the fact that the educational level perhaps in the country is not as we would like it to be. Visits with museum staff. This is in fact one of the slides up there is with the museum staff who are there to guide us. And also with the holders of the intangible cultural heritage. Then the opportunities which are coming out lately are from from what we call the integrated site management plans which have been made. And in these, you will see that there are many opportunities for museums, because in this approach, the objective is to have community at the center of it. And they are the most important way of making sure that sustainability is, is an important concern, and it is able to kind of happen through community inclusion. So, and that I think is also a current concern of museums itself. So I think these also is a way of bringing in more, museums can participate in this. The action plans and the components will show that this is one of the integrated site management plans that we did for the Gurdwaras. And these are historic Gurdwaras. Many of them exist in Pakistan, but only 2 of them were involved, were used for this intangible, for the integrated site management plan. Both of them have a Sikh Heritage Museum, among many other things that happen. These kind of things also acknowledge the festivals, some of the traditional festivals which are no more happening, but which can be brought to life. So we are, in a common thrust with the issues which are also of concern to museums. I think for me, one of the most important outcomes of this kind of work, where you work with communities, is to bring the interfaith harmony and an appreciation for cultural diversity and acceptance of people who are different from each other. And this is a prime example at one of the Gurdwaras, where the Gurdwara priests held a celebration event for the Prophet's birth. Then in another work that we are currently doing, which is in Multan, which is again another integrated site management plan. Again, you find that museums are becoming more and more a part of it, because the sites themselves have a very low educational, they need to have an enhanced educational component to it, because people go into these areas that don't really understand what it is. So we have a series of museums which have been proposed for this. And I think one of the things that will become one of the first museums in Pakistan is the Craft Museum, which is going to be coming up in Multan, hopefully if they accept that. And the idea always is to look at the associated intangible cultural heritage which might still exist whenever we look at something which is tangible. And the issue of the colonial past is always something that has been confronted. And I think the reinterpretation of our history provides a unique opportunity for museums and educationists and universities to get together. And these are some examples that you can see which are happening. Then the last points that I'd like to raise here is developing the methodologies and pedagogies and resources for embracing the traditional knowledge in the contemporary. And these are, this is work that we did with higher educational institutions. It was kind of easy to do it there because I was the vice chancellor at the time. So this is basically again the same idea of trying to bring in the traditional knowledge stream and the knowledge stream from contemporary sources to develop pedagogies which respect both and include the knowledge from both streams. And here at the right, you can see a number of our ustads who were part of this and getting out to the classroom and going onto sites and for people to meet the real world. The students to read the real world, I think, is an interesting aspect. These are people, the grass people sitting within with the faculty. We also have created we had created positions at the university where the craftspeople were treated, at a similar level, although they did not have university degrees, but the acknowledgement of their knowledge has to be made at some level within the formal system. Otherwise, we were going to lose a very important stream. And I think this is where the nexus between museums and education institutions and all other people working in culture can happen. Part of this should also be producing the kind of manuals, because we are interested or should be interested in developing the pedagogies which don't really exist. We always work in separate compartments, and we're still exploring those pedagogies. So that is basically the points I wanted to raise in this forum. So thank you. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much, Professor Sarda. Concerns and thank you so much, Professor Sajda, for your valid concerns and valuable interventions in the mainstreaming of heritage education through the community engagement and this informal educational stuff. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. Let me introduce Dr. Gulp Bulhan from Turkey while moving forward with the with our regular speeches and presentations of the session, which is on the community heritage education and community engagement. Dr. Gulp Bulhan was the coordinator of the BIA's Europe Nostra award-winning cultural heritage project, SARA, Safeguarding Archaeological Assets of Turkey. She continues her work as an honorary research fellow at the British Institute at Ankara. In her career, she has combined teaching and research with the archaeological fieldwork, along with museum and heritage consultancy. Her specialities are the Bronze Age of Northern Mesopotamia, cultural heritage management, and museum studies. She taught many programs at different universities, including the MA program in Anatolian civilizations and cultural heritage management, a pioneer in Turkey. She conducted salvage excavation at Greyhammer Museum. She has also published widely on cultural heritage and archaeology. She received her BA with honors in history from Bosphorus University, MA from Istanbul University, MPhil and PhD in ancient Near Eastern archaeology from Yale University. She was a Martin Harrison postdoctoral fellow at UNESCO Turkish National Committee on Displaced Cultural Heritage and is a member of the Turkish Archaeologist Association. Thank you so much, Dr. Gul, for being here with us.
Okay, thank you. Do you all hear me well and
yes,
see my screen? Yeah. First of all, before I start, I want to thank ICOM Turkey, ICOM Pakistan, and Kumit for this nice organization and inviting me to this organization. And particularly to you, Isa, and Miss Meliha Yaylalı and Professor Ali Akın Akyol for all the technical things and information and communication. There is a lot I want to tell about Sarat because heritage education and community involvement, that's what we try to do in our projects in different ways within 3 years. And I try to share what we have done and what we have achieved in a very quick way. The Sarat Project, the Safeguarding Archaeological Assets of Turkey, was a project that was prepared for UK Cultural Protection Fund, and it was led by the British Institute at Ankara, which is an archaeology, history and heritage research institute and an academic institution at Ankara that exists there more than 70 years. And we had 2 partners. One of them was Koç University's Research Institute, ANAMED. The other one was ICOM, but this time the branch in the UK. So in 3 years altogether, we accomplished various programs. I just want to show you that Sarat was a purely ladies-dominated project. On the left side on my screen, you see the heads of these 3 institutions, BIA, Dr. Lutfan Deput, representing ANAMED Koç University, Professor Christina Luke, and representing ICOM UK, President Tonya Nelson. And here is the Turkish Sarat team, headed, coordinated by me, and executed all the programs in Turkey. Now, what we have aimed in Sarat Project was safeguarding archaeological assets of Turkey, and obviously this is a very ambitious goal. And within this goal, what we wanted to do, increase capacity in human resources, increase knowledge and appreciation, and raise public awareness. Of course, all of these things about archaeological heritage. But when we are talking about archaeological heritage, we also wanted to promote the scientific value and importance of protecting integrity of the archaeological record as a whole, without dividing it into categories like tangible, intangible, or movable, immovable, excavated or unexcavated, site or mound, or any kind of divisions you can imagine. But we try to develop an approach that would embrace all of these archaeological assets. To achieve these goals, we have conducted 5 different programs, but all of these programs were at some level were integrated with each other and complemented each other. Our biggest program was an online certificate program on safeguarding and rescuing archaeological assets. Another huge program was a nationwide public opinion poll that has been done first time in Turkey to understand public's attitudes towards archaeology and archaeological assets. Related with this, we conducted workshops called Archaeology in Local Contexts. We conducted targeted workshops with journalists who are writing on archaeology and cultural heritage. And we also conducted, again, targeted interviews with antiquities collectors in Turkey to understand them and to raise public awareness. Now, very briefly, I'm going to introduce you these programs, but I want to give you some numbers that when we completed the Sarat project in March 2020, 3,809 people had graduated from our online certificate program. For the public opinion poll, 3,601 people became part of that opinion poll questionnaire. 102 journalists and media people attended the journalists workshop. 311 people attended the Archaeology in Local Context workshop. And I was able to talk to 20 antiquities collectors myself, actually. Now, again, very briefly, the public opinion poll was done together with a well-respected research and poll company in Turkey, because this is a massive work that it is beyond the work of heritage people. But what we wanted to understand, what people living in Turkey are thinking about archaeology and all the issues around archaeology and archaeological assets. We wanted to understand their relationship between archaeological assets, their experiences, their ideas, their opinions. We also wanted to see the facts versus prejudices, because people have opinions about what people think, but we wanted to see what actually people are thinking. Now, we had 65 questions, and these were face-to-face interviews, and we had a sample that represented all of Turkey. I can talk a lot, but I am just going to give you very brief points about this survey. For example, when we asked people how do they value, what values they attach to archaeological heritage, intangible value, or in Turkish we say manevi, immaterial value, was the highest, followed by artistic and scientific. Some other generalizations, for example, 82% of the people saw archaeological heritage as part of their own culture. 89% was very keen on returning the smuggled archaeological objects back to Turkey. 67% thought that archaeological assets were not sufficiently protected in Turkey, and then 49% approved the work of international teams in Turkey and for its contribution to archaeology. And the general outcomes of this poll, that archaeology was a very known concept, but an interest was high, but knowledge was low. Media, especially television and social media, played a big role. In terms of ownership, people in Turkey were quite aware that archaeological assets were owned by the state, and the state was the main responsible body for its protection. And maybe it's obvious, but we proved it with our questions, that lifestyle, income, and education are the most relevant factors in terms of people's level of interest and engagement with archaeology. We wanted to disseminate the information, the valuable information coming from this public opinion poll. So we arranged a series of workshops with local heritage influencers in different parts of Turkey. As much as we wanted to share what we have learned from this opinion poll, we also wanted to see what they wanted to say about their archaeological heritage, main issues around it, how they could include their local community more into various initiatives that could enrich the society both socially and economically. And overall, we wanted to create a general network among local archaeology, and heritage stakeholders. You could see, I'm not going to read all this, but these were the kind of institutions we involved in these workshops, from municipalities to museums to police to gendarme, to NGOs, local development agencies, city councils, etc. We have had great interaction in these meetings. I just want to show you a very short video here.
Ben kendimi çok şanslı görüyorum. Kardeşlerimle beraber dünyada hiç kimseye nasip olmayan bir şey yaşadık. Adeta tarih içinde doğduk, tarih içinde büyüdük ve tarihle içinde beraber yaşıyoruz. Babam ev yapmak için bir temel kazıyor. Evin temelini kazarken mozaiğe rast geliyor. Bunu devlete haber ediyor. Müze müdürü geliyor, diyor ki bu bizim tarihi eser. Bu harika bir mozaik diyor. Seni buraya bekçi yapalım diyor. Hem Anavarza Kalesi'ni koru hem de mozaikleri koru diyor. Annem bu Anavarza Kalesi'nde 34 yıl öğren yeri bekçiliğini yaptım. Her birisi benim evladım derdi bu taşlar. Annem, Hatun Gülcüm. Yani böyle bir sevgi yok ya. Bize zaten bu tarih sevgisini annemiz babamız öğretti. Oğlum biz bunların sayesinde ekmek yiyoruz. Koruyalım derdi yani. Yani hiçbir zaman görevine ihanet etmemiştir. Hiç kimseye pabuç bırakmamıştır. Bu görmüş olduğunuz Anavarza Kalesi, annem Hatun Dilci sayesinde gelecek nesillere bıraktı. Eğer korumasaydı, canla başla mücadele etmeseydi, bugün Anavarza'nın ağası diye bir şey kalmazdı yani. Bu tarihi eser korumak için de bekçi olmaya gerek yok. Müze müdürü olmaya gerek yok. Adeta buranın bekçisi hepimiz. Hepimiz bir bekçiyiz burada.
Yes, I mean, that short video, that short film I showed you, we have developed that kind of archaeology human story videos that will tell people that this was actually a shared responsibility and everybody can play a role in engaging and protecting archaeological heritage. Now, journalists was a targeted group for us because we already knew, but also our public opinion results show that media plays a big role in shaping people's ideas on various topics, but especially on archaeology and heritage. And we archaeologists see that there were some problematic angles that journalists were approaching this topic, or sometimes they were, failing to give, correct information about the things that they have been discussing. So in different parts of Turkey, we wanted to bring together archaeologists and journalists, and again, share viewpoints, see problems or positive sides together, and again, create a network, but together in a way, be in a better and more productive service of the society. We produced a handbook for journalists that would give them, terminological information about archaeology and a bit of Anatolian chronology. People met each other, so whenever there is something that journalists want to check, fact checking, so now they know an archaeologist that they can reach easily. And overall, we wanted to increase the quality of archaeology reporting in the media and to achieve to a more ethical reporting. I must say that these workshops also well received, and our relationship with media and journalists still continue. As you can see, we spread them, all around Turkey in different cities, and sometimes we met at archaeological sites when there was a facility. We can do a workshop, sometimes in museum type of places, and so on. So there was a variety. Very briefly, archaeological looting is a problem that we all share in our countries, whether it's Turkey, Pakistan, Iraq, Syria, Iran, all of it. And we thought raising awareness on this issue must be one of the points that Sarat Project had to tackle, because we are losing history, we are losing chronology, we are losing the evidence of the past through these lootings, and commercialization of archaeology, whether legally or illegally, something that we stand against. And we thought antiquities collectors in Turkey, these are registered, permitted, legal collectors, but nevertheless, we thought we should know them better. And also share our concerns with them. So these interviews were quite interesting, actually, and I believe that it brought the archaeology community and the collectors a bit closer in terms of understanding each other's worries and concerns. However, the largest part of the Sarat project, and what made Sarat really popular, was its online certificate program on safeguarding and rescuing archaeological assets. This program we produced together with British Institute, Koç University, and ICOM-UK. Again, our target participants were heritage professionals who are already working or with a degree, or professionals to be in the sense that these are graduate students or maybe senior students about their studies. The program is produced in Turkish free of charge. The successful graduates received a certificate from Koç University. We offered it in 2-month terms. Overall, it was 20 episodes. It had a very comprehensive coverage. At the heart of it was the disaster risk management and first aid to cultural heritage, and we follow the model that was developed by ICOM. But nevertheless, we supported this core program with a general introduction to the importance of archaeological heritage and its protection. We added practical skills, and we also done a very large part on the heritage assets of Turkey, particularly involving UNESCO World Heritage. And we finished it with our results of the public opinion poll. We had lots of interviews, videos with experts we included in the teaching, which again became very popular among our participants. And overall, in 9 months, we had almost 4,000 graduates from all over Turkey. And these graduates, as you can see here, were lots of freelancers, members of the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, members of Ministry of Education, local authorities like conservation departments, libraries, World Heritage departments, urban planning departments, NGOs, whether at local scale, media, legal professional, security forces, quite a diverse community, and of course universities, faculty and graduate students, all engaged in cultural heritage one way or another. And surprisingly, we had people joining from abroad as well, obviously, Turkish-speaking people. And our course continues after the end of the project. And as of May 21, our number of graduates is now over 5,000. We also translated ICOM's work on this topic, so it's freely downloadable on Sarat webpage. Sarat in 2020 won the Europa Nostra Award in Cultural Heritage and Awareness Raising, and also a second place in European Archaeological Heritage Prize. And there is a lot I can say, but I will finish it here again with a very short video that gives the message of Sarat in a quite nice way.
Sarat Project's greatest surprise and excitement was the incredible demand to our online course on safeguarding and rescuing archaeological assets. The moment we opened the online applications, the online form, the applications started to come almost like a rain, like a shower. Every minute an application was dropping to the system. And at the end of the first day, we reached to number like 600. We will never forget the excitement and the happiness of that day. Training program of Sarat on safeguarding and rescuing archaeological assets originally was planned as a face-to-face training in the museums. Once we realized that we wouldn't be able to do this in the museums themselves, we had to change the whole program into an online education, and it took quite a while to convince our funders that we could do that and it will be still successful. So that put project on hold for a few months. So that was the most difficult challenge throughout the project that we had to go through. Part in Sarat Project's activities and trainings showed us that there is a great dynamic and diverse cultural heritage community in Turkey. These people care about archaeological heritage. They want to learn and they want to carry responsibility for their safeguarding. Sarat Project inspired them, and we learned a lot from them. And altogether, I think we are creating a very positive impact in terms of safeguarding and understanding archaeological heritage in the country. And that is the greatest result of the project as a project and also personally.
Okay, and I thank you all. I think I am really way over my time, but you know, Sarat websites are still active. We have a playlist on the YouTube. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So you can learn a bit more about Sarat and share our results from there as well. I think that's all from me for now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gul. It was impressive presentation, and you're to include a journalist in the heritage education programs. I believe there's a lot to learn from each other. So thank you so much, Dr. Gul, once again. Without any further ado, let me introduce Ma'am Sabrina Daud and invite her for her presentation. Ma'am Sabrina Daud is the CEO of the Daud Foundation, a philanthropic education. TDF has played an important role in establishing formal education institutions across Pakistan. Since the last few years, the nation has places of learning that are more content and value based in their knowledge dissemination.
Hello, shall I just start then? Good afternoon for us. It's a pleasure meeting all of you. My name is Sabrina Daud, as mentioned before, and I'm here actually to just give a small view of this small project that we started, which is obviously of no grand scale like the ones that have been mentioned before. It's a little house that we've actually, that I'll be talking about today. What I'm talking about is that I come from a city called Karachi in Pakistan. Karachi is one of the bigger mega cities in the world. However, it's a very young city. And over the past decades, it's been going through a lot of political instabilities. There's been terrorism. There's been a lot of religious strife. And there's been a lot of violence that the city has experienced over time. And because of all of these different reasons, it's also a city of opportunity. So many people from all over Pakistan have come here to find opportunities of work, because it is, at the end of the day, our industrial and commercial hub of Pakistan. So it's a city that's got people from all parts of Pakistan, and they kind of come here and coexist. However, while they coexist together.
Sorry, I'm interrupt you. Do you have any presentation?
Yes, I'll just start all of that.
Okay.
Just giving you a background, and I'll start.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So because it's all these multiple communities exist together, they have what you call, they kind of vie for space in the city. And there's a definite kind of question of those who migrated here and those who consider this the original land. And you see those kind of feuds and happening here. So because of all of these reasons, Karachi is a city and the people are very divorced from the art, the culture, and the history. And unfortunately, we've gone out of our way to destroy our historical buildings, our historical artifacts, and also not give them any kind of importance. So to to the extent where the youth and the people are very divorced from their background and from their identity. And the whole purpose of this project, this house that we've restored, which I will just show you a video of and then continue on, is to create that sense of relevance and connection for them. And we'll show you how we go about doing that. So I'll just share a video first of all. Thank you.
Sabrina, we can't see anything here.
There is something wrong with the video and audio.
Yeah.
We can't hear Sabrina.
We can hear her, but we can't see anything.
Oh, sorry. 1 second. My fault. My fault. 1 second. I think it didn't share. I apologize. I really do. I'm sorry. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Not yet.
Yes, we can hear you, Sabrina. Please go ahead.
You can see the screen?
Yes, we can do that.
Yes.
All right. Sorry.
Yes, now it's.
Is this the one? Wait a second. I think. One second. It's not sharing properly. Okay. Apologize for the screen thing. I'm going to share again. And all right, so I'm going to go through this. So, so as I said, basically about Karachi, that and the background of Karachi is relevant here because TTF Ghar means in Urdu means home, and that's exactly what we've done. We've taken an old home not very old, because again, Karachi is a young city and it gained prominence during the colonial era. And it is a home that was built before partition. And it basically represents the different eras or the different times that Karachi has been through. So this home was basically built in the 1930s by a Hindu woman. And after partition, it was bought by a Muslim woman for her daughter. And then it was bequeathed to the foundation. So what we did was we restored it, and it lay abandoned for many years. It was a vocational training center at one point, and then it became abandoned, and it was taken over by a land grabbing mafia, and they completely destroyed the space. So we were able to get it back, and we restored it. So the whole purpose of this is that all of these old pre-partition buildings are being destroyed in Karachi, and the whole purpose of this was to reunite and to get people to enjoy spaces like this, so that those other buildings can be preserved and restored and given their due importance. And what this has done is with this small space, what we've allowed visitors to do is that they come here, they are able to utilize this space in any way that they feel like. So, they can have their music sessions, they can have storytelling, there's exhibitions that we do on Karachi, they can have their meetings. So the space is utilized for what is meaningful for the youth and for our visitors. And this is a place, and one of the most important things about this space is that it actually overlooks the Mazar, which is the symbol of the city. The Mazar is basically our founder's grave, mausoleum. And so basically this connection that the youth, that people can have with their identity and history, which is missing, is kind of gives them an opportunity to kind of relate to it and feel a little bit more affinity with their past that they have lost. Because of the various different communities that live here, what people don't realize is that Karachi doesn't belong to one community. It's always been a city of heterogeneity, of opportunity, of different people. And our purpose here was to create that sense of realization that diversity is at the heart of our identity, and it's not actually about whose land this is and whose isn't, and that all of these different communities that live in Pakistan or in Karachi have their own space and have contributed to that space. So whether it's Muslims or Hindus or Sikhs or Christians or ethnic communities, everybody has their space and their history. And actually, this house represents how these different communities have historically added to the history of Karachi. So the tiles may be from a Parsi Zoroastrian community person. He was the one who kind of made the tiles. It used to be a house of a Hindu woman. It was bought by a Muslim. There's Anglo-Saxon furniture here. So it just shows that so many different communities have gotten together and created a space, and that's true for all our houses. And it's kind of brought people to understand why history is important and how we can't segregate our own one person or one community history from the rest. We all are a collection of many different heritage and many different influences, and that's what makes culture so rich and gives it depth and makes it diverse. So that was the whole purpose of this space, and it's really cottoned on with the youth, because they feel that there is a space that they can go to, which is also safe, because Karachi has been a city of a lot of insecurity. And the space, when we were starting to renovate here, they said, this is a bad area, things get stolen here, but it's brought new life to the space where people don't feel that fearful in going to that area or that neighborhood like they used to. Though it's as safe as the rest of Karachi, to be honest. So that's what this space brought. And then what we were able to do was capture the historical people who helped build Karachi or who had a part in Karachi, and they were this is about this architect who's actually Jewish, and he's built a number of buildings in Karachi, and he's lost in time, and it's just made people think about, you know, how Karachi has so many influences and how it's important to regain and appreciate those influences that we have in our city. So that's that pluralistic ethos is what makes Karachi what it is. So and you know, that's why a lot of we have a lot of university students. We have, of course, tourists come here, people who want to show Karachi to people, expats or foreigners. They bring them to TDF. It's and people just can, if once you come in, you can stay for as long as you want. You can you know, there are board games, there's chess. It is a space that you can literally lounge around as much as you want. And the other part that is done is that it's made people realize, you know, older generations, they bring their younger children over, and then they sit together and they talk about what, you know, the older generation can tell them, look, this is how we used to live, and this is the way our rooms used to be. And so it's like it's the history angle comes from the oral history, the memories of people that they transfer to each other and to their own families, which makes it so actually it just makes it really poignant, because when you see older people come with their grandchildren and say, this is how we used to live, and you know, these were the things we used to use. So it's basically them telling their story, and the house is just a kind of a stage for them to you know, relive their past and connect with their future generations. So this is how Karachi's, and it's also brought a lot of the diaspora when they come back. They like to come to TDF because, again, it reminds them of a Karachi. Because Karachi, as all cities do, they change, and it just, this part feels a little bit like the youth or something that they feel Karachi could be like, and especially if they want to, you know, get their own children who have been, you know, who've lived abroad all their life, and they want to explain to them their own culture and their own background, and they like to come here, and then you see visitors explaining, you know, this is how we used to live, or this is and show Karachi as they imagined it. And of course, for us, these community engagements have been really important, where people from different communities are able to communicate with one another, have shared experiences, create their own workshops, whether it's about dance or creative writing, and there's no sense of that someone can't do something here. They can come and unlike other museums which are about collections, for us, it's about those collective oral memories that we take, and we want to give them a space for others to kind of enjoy and be part of. So, of course, during COVID, everything closed down, and one of the issues that we had was that a lot of people actually kept writing to us saying, you know, open, because it had become a space where the youth really felt they could come and study, and they could really kind of, you know, express themselves. And I think that there's a lot here that one could learn about, at least I think, our museums in Karachi, because we don't have a museum culture as such. I think Lahore is well advanced than us, but and other parts, you know, is that how to engage with community, because museums need to relate to their youth. They need to relate their history to the youth for it to be, you know, worthwhile, for it to create that kind of change that you're looking for. Because often, even they're just things lying around and they're not something that we can relate to, they lose their significance. And it's really important that we make museums as interactive and as much of an educational tool as possible for people to realize their value. So that's where TDF comes from, and this is what we've always felt is an important way of trying to engage people with history and with their culture, and create a space that's safe, that allows for heterogeneity and allows for you know, community coexistence and harmony. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. It's really good to see and to know how inclusive approach you have there in your museum. Thank you so much for joining in. But moving forward, let me introduce Dr. Umar, who is in Head Department of Cultural Studies, National College of Arts, Lahore, and later served as Director NC Rawalpindi. He has been engaged in various donor-funded projects into teaching and learning to promote peace, social cohesion, and sustainable development through mapping of cultural heritage of Dera Ismail Khan district. He is also an author of many publications on culture, history, heritage, and education. His forthcoming is expected this summer. He completed his postdoctoral fellowship from MIT, USA, and SOAS, Masters from Nottingham University, UK, and MSc in Anthropology from Quaid-e-Azam University, Pakistan. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for joining in. The floor is yours now.
Thank you, everybody, for giving me the opportunity. I hope you can hear me well. Can I be heard?
Very well, thank you.
Can I be heard?
We can hear you.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
All right. I'm so happy to see Reverend Dr. Samana Siri among the audience. So pleasure to have you in our session, and I'm really happy to see the image of Lord Buddha.
Oh, thank you.
I can't help noticing it.
Lord Buddha in the UK.
Wonderful. Without further ado, I will now share our work as Iza Khan has introduced. Let me try and share my screen so you could be able to see what we've been trying to do here in Pakistan. So give me a little moment. Let me figure out where are we? No, not here. Sorry. I'll yes, this is right. Now this is our organization, which is called Center for Culture and Development, and its motto is to create synergy between culture and development. Now, I would probably be building on what earlier distinguished speakers have, tried to argue, that community is something that has to be almost invented rather than to be taken for granted as already existing. In my humble experience, what I have realized is that, like in any other society, society is largely a collection of individuals with a diverse interests. There's a conflict of interest, there's a competition, and there is not, this collective interest is something that has to be cultivated rather than assumed. So what we have tried to do through our various initiatives is to try to create, if you like, a heritage community, try to create a cultural community, and try to create a community which does not exist before. Individuals and social groups do exist in society, but almost like anthropologists, I would say that community is a concept that is a cultivated concept. That particular body of people who become like a vanguard of certain activity, who steer a certain activity, have to be cultivated, have to be carved, have to be. We just cannot assume that community exists. Now, I will just briefly, because I have 15 minutes and I will spend 3-4 minutes already. So I will very briefly show you two things. One is our how through print one can actually create a community, sort of develop its intellectual resources, develop its skill set, and then actually put it to work. This is one particular initiative that has come through our publication, the print. Now let's start from this. If you could see that this is a heritage resource kit for a particular district in Pakistan, which is meant to promote peace and social cohesion. Now, what we did was that we uh, have, first of all, we did some research on trying to understand what is to be protected, what is, first of all, to map the cultural heritage, which includes material and non-material heritage of a particular city, if you like, or of a district. And then we, as you could see from these various chapters, there are these few 5 chapters which essentially cover the whole of tangible and intangible cultural heritage of Dera Ismail Khan. Now, with this resource material, this which was actually supported by UNESCO, we were able to then hold various, if you like, workshops with people, with village communities, if you like, and then try to create a heritage community out of that village community. Because unlike in a more urban setting where there are diverse professionals who directly or indirectly are engaged in heritage conservation, like architects or artists or archaeologists and anthropologists and so on. In a village society, in a remote district in Pakistan, there is hardly any, if you like, an educated pool of individuals who would be able to inform and engage and lead their community members to the path of protecting their heritage. So this is, this, as I said before, I will just sort of keep flipping through it to give you an idea of the importance of documentation through print, which can become a source of them mobilizing community, educating them first, informing them first, and then actually getting them to the action, right? Now, these pictures are actually the pictures which were taken during the research, which gives you a fairly good idea of the lifestyle of the people, in addition to giving information about their history and heritage. So these are the images of various activities and events, and then architecture, right? So, and then, we didn't stop at just providing information. Then we also, kind of provide them a guide map as how to go about what to do with this information, how to go about actually utilizing this information for the protection and the preservation of their particular assets. So heritage mapping was one thing, and we also held several workshops to teach them how to go about it. And secondly, I think these are all community related activities which were conducted in order to, as I said, in order to inform and engage people. At the same time, what we were able to do was that we also, I mean, these are various kits there. Then we thought that community is also kind of a loosely structured mass of people, right? People can leave their hometowns and go away for work and then may not even come back. So the kind of the lasting impact of this kind of intellectual resource could be through the school education. So what we did was that we try and not by any stretch of imagination, infiltrate in the curriculum, because the curriculum in Pakistan, like elsewhere, is very tightly controlled document. You can't even insert anything into the curriculum without, state level intervention or something that goes through the legislative process and so on. You can't just change the curriculum through administrative means. But nevertheless, we tried and developed these heritage resource kits for the school teacher. So the idea was, let's say that if a school teacher is teaching geography, then it is really important that they should teach the geography of their own immediate neighborhood. It is no point, to have information which is kind of far removed from their own personal experiences. So these heritage resource, if I, sorry, I think I've opened up the same again. Achha, now what we did was, now these heritage, the resource kits for the, these are for the community resource kits, sorry. Now the resource kits for the students actually have then, these, what they call these lessons. These lessons were carved out of the historical, cultural information that was given there. And then, there were lessons planned where students who are studying geography or history or Pakistan studies or even economics or any other subject at the primary and secondary level, this particular cultural information should be integrated into the classroom teaching. Rather than we try and change the curriculum, we thought best that we could do was to hold these workshops with the teachers of various subjects, even Urdu for that matter, or English for that matter. And let me quote a very interesting point here, that when we were teaching, when we were holding these workshops with school teachers from various, teaching in various subjects. So one of the teachers of the English language, when we were having a discussion, I asked her, what do they teach for to their early graders? What kind of English language poems that they teach? And she said that there's a very famous English poem that we teach called Red Riding Hood. Now, those of us now we understand. I did not knew it before that that this was this particular folk tale came, I think, from Germanic tales and became part of kind of European folklore, and through the British inspired curriculum in the colonial days, Red Riding Hood became a very popular, poem in our primary education. Now, when I asked her what is that hood, and she said, what is that about? And she could not even explain, the female teacher could not even explain the costume because she had not seen anyone wearing that hood, right? So this very, image of a girl, wearing a hood of red color and kind of going on about for her work or something is missing in their, from their, from their minds. They can't make a mental picture of it because even the very dress is so much far removed from their immediate experience. Now, what we argued was, what if we translate a local poem in Saraiki language, right, which is a local language that school children are familiar, it's their mother tongue. What if we take a poem from the mother tongue and then translate into chaste English by somebody who had a degree from Oxford, and then teach that poem in as part of the English language course? Don't you think that probably will create more cultural connectivity than this kind of alienating and alien sort of images? Because the local poems in Saraiki are full of references to local flora and fauna, right? The local sort of imagery is what makes that poem, sort of in a way take its flesh and blood. It becomes real because you can relate to so many things around you. So instead of trying to slot that particular folk tale in the category of cultural heritage, why can't it be translated and turned into a piece of English literature? Or, as if not anything else, but just as a medium through which students can learn English language, because the point is to teach them English. But at the same time, what has happened is, in our experience, that generally our even educated communities are far removed from the culture, because our modern education filtered through the colonial and post-colonial lens have actually made us to hate our own cultural roots. So as a result of that, educated people are more divorced from their cultural neighborhoods than those who are considered as illiterate. So I think as a result of that, our drive for heritage education did not presume that that communities exist, or the understanding of the communities about their particular immediate neighborhood would be profound. No, we realized that even the school teachers who have been almost kind of brought up there in the areas which were even closer to heritage sites knew very little about them, because nothing was told to them, right? And if they could see a heritage site with lots of potsherds on the ground, instead of treating it as an archaeological site, they will think that this is the remains of somebody of a population, or who was punished by God. So he destroyed them and turned all their kind of you know perished them, and all that remains is their broken pieces of their daily artifacts and so on. So what we're saying is that this is one lesson that we learned from this. And secondly, I think, and I'll take you to another another video, if you like, which is actually telling the story of how a certain community can be created through proactive interaction. Now, I've given you example of print, and now I'm giving you an example of how face-to-face interaction can actually create a community then which can take charge of its issues, and uh, rather than relying on government or any external group or a donor to help them to bring improvement in their lives. Now, here is a short video, not more than 3 minutes. So I hope you will enjoy it. It's not in that remote district. Now you will see a very different kind of a community taking shape here in Islamabad. And what we had was that this concept was the concept of Chopal. Chopal is historically a gathering place, a collective communal, traditional communal place in village, where people at the end of their day's work will gather and have chit chat and share their pleasures and pains and so on. So we try and replicate in one of the uh, 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 public places, one of the, in fact, one of the abandoned parts of a very central park in Islamabad. This was an amphitheater here, and we just started gathering up there, and we continued our activities for many years before COVID drove us out. Here is a video. And let me see if I could, I also have to check on the video. Can you hear the video? Did you hear the sound? Hello?
There's no sound now.
There's no sound. So I will actually have to fiddle with it to create sound. Where does it? Yes. Sound. Share sound. I think it's good to go now.
आजकल की दौर में इंटरनेट है, गूगल है, सब कुछ है, वो टीचर नहीं है, वो तरबियत देने वाला नहीं है।
असल में नाम मेरा यूसुफ कमाल था। जब मैं इस शोबे में आया तो ना उन्होंने मुझसे पूछा, मेरा नाम बदल दिया, शकील रख दिया।
आई फील वेरी स्ट्रांगली कि मुझे कॉन्क्रीट काम कुछ करने चाहिए जो सिर्फ अगली जनरेशन की ग्रूमिंग के लिए हों। मैं चाहती हूँ कि यंग मैन एंड वुमेन दोनों ही, मैं कहूँगी सिर्फ लड़कियाँ नहीं, वो एक प्राइड के साथ अपने पास्ट को देखें और एक प्राइड के साथ उसको ओन करें।
अब खुद कुछ कहना पड़ेगा हमको, करना पड़ेगा, करना पड़ेगा। जीने के लिए सोचा ही नहीं, दर्द संभालने होंगे।
जरा भी है तेरे दिल में अगर लहू का लिहाज, महक फरोश मेरे फूल मत कलम किया कर।
चौपाल जो है ये हम शहरियों ने खुद एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बनाई है और जिसका मतलब ये है कि जो इस्लामाबाद में लोग ओनरशिप नहीं रखते शहर की, वो ओनरशिप लें और इसके मसाइल को खुद डिस्कस करें और बताएं कि इसका हल क्या है।
सैयद शान अली नकवी, डिप्टी मेयर हूँ मैं इस्लामाबाद से और चौपाल का रेगुलर मेंबर हूँ। जितने भी लोग हैं ओपन फोरम है, यहाँ पे आते हैं, डिस्कस होते हैं, मसले मसाइल उनके हल सोल्यूशन की तरफ भी हम जाते हैं।
ये चौपाल जो इस्लामाबाद में हुआ, ये बहुत कमाल किया आपने और वो नाम दिया इसको जिसका ये मुस्तहिक है।
चौपाल में आके ऐसा लगा है कि अब जाने को जी नहीं चाह रहा है।
मेरे ख्याल है ये बुनियाद रखी जा रही है, एक बड़ी प्यारी कम्युनिटी बन रही है, सोचने समझने वाले ऐसे हैंगआउट्स हैं जो हम मिस करते हैं।
हमें ज़रूरत है एम्पैथी की, मेहरबानी की, लोगों के दुख को समझने की।
बहुत ही अच्छा लगा, बहुत अच्छा, जैसे अपनी जड़ों से जाके कहीं मिल गए।
Right. Right. Thank you very much. With this, I think I should stop here. Thank you very much. Ji, I will now hand it over to Iza.
Sir, we can't see you.
No, I'm saying I'll hand it back now to Iza. You can't see me?
There's a connection problem for the Iza.
Yeah.
We are waiting.
All right. So
there is a connection problem of Isaac, Ma'am Isaac. Ali, you can share this duty, please, on behalf of Isaac.
Isa is in the session now.
Yeah, okay.
Hello. Yeah, actually, I'm having terrible connection today, and again, I don't know what to do.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Dr. Saab. I don't know if you could hear me or not.
Iza, we can't see you.
So without any further, that doesn't matter. As long as you can hear me, that's fine. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, but we can't see you, Iza.
That's fine. No problem. Okay, Fakir Sayyid Saifuddin Saab is here with us. Let me introduce him. He is the director and curator of Fakir Khana Museum, located inside the Bhati Gate, one of the 12 gates of the old walled city of Lahore. He is not only the curator of this unique collection, but his family who settled in Lahore in the year 1730. The museum collection represents the art from the 18th, 19th and 20th century and have loaned many pieces to various museums all across the country, including to the Lahore Museum, Karachi Museum, and the Army Museum in Rawalpindi. He has facilitated many researchers in their quest to find their cultural roots and has been imparting education, heritage education through community engagement at Fakir Khana Museum. Thank you so much, Fakir Sayyid Saifuddin, for joining in, and you can walk us through now through your museum.
Well, thank you very much. I hope, Iza, you're listening to me and all the participants. Well, I'm so glad that ICOM Pakistan has done this beautiful initiative. Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful to Professor Saida Wendell, Dr. Gol, and Sabrina and Suri Saab and my dear friend Nadeem Umar Tar Saab. They are doing a very great contribution to our heritage, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear them. And I'll start about my collection myself. And I don't have slides to show you around, but I'll try to give you a personal tour to the museum. Well, as you know, that as you mentioned, that Fakir Khana Museum is one of the oldest private museums of Lahore, and we are open to the public since 1905. It's more than 100 years we have been doing the services to the community, especially our international visitors as well as the local visitors. So we are maintaining this visitor book in our museum, which starts from 1905. Actually, this museum history goes back with my family history, which is around, we started from 1730s. My forefathers, they came down to Pakistan, to Lahore, they settled themselves, they acquired this building, and I'm going to show you some of my buildings here. And I'm going to share some of my collection. So then you can understand that what contribution we are doing towards the promotion of art, culture, and history, how we are preserving it. And I totally agree with Mr. Umar. It needs to be the young generation should a part of our culture and heritage, and we should teach them about our own past. So Fakir Khana Museum is one of the big source for learning. We have more than 20,000 specimens of artifacts which are lying here, and we represent obviously 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries of art. So my museum is basically.
We can't see you. I don't know if you are walking us through your museum.
I'm sorry. No, video is on. Can you see me now? But I can see myself in my phone. Can you see?
No.
Maybe it's
no.
What happened to it? I don't know what to do now. I'm totally stuck. I have to show you my collection and the building and everything, you know.
Your camera.
Camera is on.
Yes.
I can see myself in my.
Just switch on your camera.
Camera is on. Video is on. What should I do now? I can see you, Iza, but your video is stopped.
Can you please unshare your screen and then share again?
Okay.
Perhaps it will work in that way. Now we can see you.
Okay, thank you, God, for these technologies you get stuck sometimes with the technologies. So is that?
Yes.
This is all about Fakir Khana Museum. I'm sitting in a room which is known as Gol Kamra. And this beautiful Gol Kamra is my office. And why we call it Gol Kamra, there is nothing gold, there is nothing round here. But you know, we sit in a round section here like Chopal. So these Gol Kamras have a very long history behind it. Allama Iqbal used to recite his poetry here. Hashir used to rehearse his dramas around here. And many literary classes, many literary gatherings used to take place in this room. So this building is around from the period of Mughal Emperor Akbar. By the passage of time, this building has been renovated by generation to generation. I'm the 6th generation living here, and my son is 7th generation. Since 7th generation, this is the only family who's dedicated themselves for art, culture, and history. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Fakir Khana Museum, no doubt, it's a very important place in Pakistan, and we have been serving this country, and we don't have any, ticket. It's in anything. We show our visitors around. It's basically without any support of the government. We pool ourselves, we support this museum by our own pocket, but doesn't matter. There's this, we give them a guided tour to the museum. So more than millions of visitors have been visited this museum. Let me show you some of my building, and I wanted to share some of my collection with you. So it's a great inspiration for the young generation. So we give them a guided tour, and with the guided tour, what we do out here, we educate people, we educate young generations. So our museum is only for go to the, it's only by the appointments, we show the museum of appointment. This is my courtyard you're looking at, and we'll go upstairs. I can show you my rest of my collection. So we have more than 20,000 specimens of artifacts and the beautiful collection of miniature paintings. And the miniature art is dying art here in Pakistan, and it's a very tedious art. So we have got 1,800 miniatures in my collection, out of which there are around 160 miniatures. It's on display, and we keep rolling on the miniatures. So we should not lose our interest. So whenever I show the museum, I give them a guided tour and a personalized tour. So this is the way of interact with the people. And I'll not waste your time much. We'll go to the museum, and I can show you some of my beautiful artifacts. So we have to climb up the stairs and reach the museum. I hope you are getting my voice here.
I can hear you, yes.
Thank you. So we entered this beautiful room full of miniature paintings. This is the way my forefather used to live here. And we have just preserved this room. This museum is not like a regular museum, We don't have showcases. This is the way my forefather has decorated the room.
Sorry, sir, your video is stuck.
My visual is, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. Must be the weak weak internet connection. Now can you see?
I thought it was my connection.
Maybe again you have to unshare the screen and then share it again.
Okay, sure. Can you see now?
No, we can't.
Still stuck.
Oh, then I'm sorry. I don't know what to do now.
Perhaps it's the internet connection, slow internet connection.
Yeah, maybe.
If you have climbed up to some other floor, then maybe you don't get proper
this
signals.
I don't know what to do. This is 4G. It's a 4G connection. It happens in Pakistan. Like
you can go back to your ground floor and give us the virtual tour of that floor only.
Okay. Let me try another room. Maybe you can get some good.
Yeah, we can see you now.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. So, are you interested to see some of the beautiful miniatures around here? Let me explain you. If you look at this painting, this one, she is the wife of Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar, the Maryam Zamani. She was
Can I say something? Your video is stuck, sir.
It's stuck again.
Oh,
your video is stuck again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the video. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think let's go back to the ground floor and give us the tour of your ground floor only. We would love to see your collection, but I believe there's no point of getting disconnected again.
There is no point. I understand. Let's go to the ground floor.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone. Today is a very good day for every one of us.
That's okay. It happens.
I hope noise is there. Is that now? Can you see?
So, are you there with us?
Yes, I am. Please accept my apologies.
Please go ahead. No, that's fine. That's fine. Please go ahead.
For the weak connection. What I'm trying to say, Fakir Khana Museum is a place of learning. So I gave lectures on the history of Lahore, the history of artifacts, the history of, anthropology history, definitely, the history of art. So we have conducted around 5 PhD theses, more than 20 MPhil theses, and countless masters and the graduation thesis. So Iza, I'm sorry, I don't know, I can't see you, but my video is stuck, and please accept my apologies, dear friends. Maybe some another day.
So do you have any website where we can see the collection? Do you have any official website where people can see the collection?
Sure. You can visit my Google, Facebook page with the name of Fakir Khana Museum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. I will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Over to you, Iza.
Yeah. Okay, so since we are pressing for, thank you. Since we are pressing for time, panel speakers, museum educator, after obtaining a bachelor's degree, she completed her master program at Ankara University, Department of Museum Education in 2013. She completed a drama of national education between the years 2012 and 2015, serving as a museum educator and developing and instructing education programs since 2013. Thank you, Aise, for joining in. I hope I'm not pronouncing it very badly, but please forgive me for that.
Thank you, Isa. I share my screen.
Sure.
Is okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you again. My topic is digital museum education practice in a pandemic period. Digital education has entered our lives with the pandemic completely. Thus, museums also had to plan and redesign their educational programs under these conditions. And now I will talk about the digital museum education programs of some major and important museums in the world and in Turkey. And then I will explain the digital museum education process that I planned for the Ankara Rahmi Koç Museum. And now, first museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Within the scope of museum abroad, the first museum, I will talk about the Met. The museum designed a web page for children and include the contents under three heads. You can get information about museum artifacts from the map with a drawing, this photo. You can find objects certain purpose by performing filter such a period and type in the time machine. This is very funny, I think. And the video section, you can watch activity, suggestion, and videos on many different topics. And Tate Museum. Tate Museum have a website for kids, offers three different activity content. Firstly, suggestion for art activity, such as sculpture and painting and dance, etc. And games and quizzes. It's funny, I think. Animated videos to get to know the artists and their artworks. Explorer page. Yes, Science Museum. Science Museum, same where I work museum. Science Museum offers many educational services on its main website, not for kids. However, some of them can be accessed remotely. The website has resource and documents for in classroom and for family at school or at home. It has also collection discovery page. It's important for me in pandemic period, in which you can look at the individual object in the collection and games and application for mobile devices. Let's take a look at the FIV Museum in Turkey. And firstly, Pera Museum. Pera Museum includes artistic and ethnographic artworks in collections. It's offered two different activities. You can attend it remotely. And firstly, virtual tours for kids, for young, for adults, and online workshops and activity bags. The museum sends itself the materials to be used in the online workshops. And this photo, activity bags, and canvas, and paint, and painting brush. Sabancı Museum. Sabancı Museum has many works of Turkish art. There are many online art activities. The participants prepare the materials to be used in activity themselves. Museum not sent, participants have to prepare material and example paper and brush and painting. And Resonance Museum. The museum includes archaeological artifacts. There are many activities suggested on its website. Activity plans are also provided on its website. So teachers can use these plans in classroom. Maybe family can use this plan at home. Okay. Now, the museum where I work, Ankara Rahmi Koç Museum. When I decided to plan a digital museum education, when the pandemic started, I think the activities that I just mentioned, it's not interactive, sorry. So I had two questions in my mind. What can I do for digital museum education? And how can I give digital museum education? Before planning an activity for children, I derive a frame for myself. I want the activity within the scope to be socializing. So it was necessary for the participant to go in an online environment. I needed to get them to interact with each other. I think it's important point in online activity. The activity has to be both informative and enjoyable. Getting feedback in the distance education is often overlooked. That's why I needed to get feedback during the activity process. Feedback and evaluation. Yes, I used online meeting programs to socializing. Zoom, yeah, we use Zoom, and keep participants active. At the beginning of each of our activity, we created digital board stable for the time. We use the following programs to create these digital boards and with children: Poplet and Miro and Padlet. It's Web 2.0 tools. Games, same tools. The funny part of our activity consisted of digital games. We prepared digital games thanks to some digital tools. For example, quizzes, Kahoot, Wordwall, Janely, Educandy. We planned these as a short-term games that children could play during online meetings. We developed the game content in accordance with the museum theme. And in the last part of online activity, we received feedback and evaluation from children. Okay, I see another photos during the activity. Museum games, which we created with this format, continued for 34 weeks. It's a social media post for notice. And screenshot activity. 903 children aged between 7-12 years participant or in our activity. And children played games by producing contents related to 20 different themes of our museum collection and its digital board. We received a lot of science feedback at the activity. I will read a few. He or she writes, I had fun. And I had fun. I'm happy. Very beautiful. I had fun. Happy. Enjoyable. Very good. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. This format we created for pandemic inspired as for other events. We planned many activities for teachers, young people, school groups, and age range. And thank you for attention. I think very. I'm speedy. Sorry.
Thank you so much, I say. Thank you so much for sharing all your interventions. I love those colorful icons of different games. And I believe it's very significant to include young children to impart heritage education because if there's no transmittal of traditional knowledge, then we are not leaving anything for our next generations, and that would be a very very bad thing, so to say. So with these notes, I would like to ask everybody if they have any questions. I didn't see anything in the chat box, but still, if anybody has any questions, they can ask different speakers, or any suggestion or any comments to make. So I think everybody's so happy with the presentations and nobody has any question. Thank you so much, our respected keynote speaker, our speakers, Professor Sajda Wandal Saiba, Dr. Gul, I say Fakir Saifuddin Saab, Dr. Nadeem Umar, Sabrina. A few of them have already left because they have some other commitments. So they left after their presentation. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for our next session, which will be hosted by Albania, ICOM Albania. And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in and your attention and for your support.
Thank you.
Ali, do you have anything to add?
So much for the all presentation. It was very valuable. We know much about the e-learning, digital heritage learning, e-education. Thank you so much for all participants. It was very valuable for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.